Hi, welcome to Tech Thursday. I'm Cassie.
And I'm Nicole. I never thought we'd be discussing Bonanza on Tech Thursday, but...
Yeah, fun fact, whenever I don't know an old TV reference, I just assume it's Bonanza. I don't know why.
Well, it is a TV show. And it is an older TV show, so there is that.
Bonanza.
Oh my god, so what are we talking about today, Cassie?
Not fall asleep. So we've been doing a lot of, I mean, I guess it's technically part of our job, but
right,
more designy, website-y stuff this week.
Yeah.
It seems like some of our weeks are more marketing, and then some of our weeks are more building websites.
Yeah, it's true.
It's really, I mean, we do all of those things, but
yeah, it definitely goes in cycles, though, for sure.
Yeah. So this week was a more designy cycle, and we thought there were a couple of times when I felt like a parent that was like, no, you can't have another piece of cake when like when talking to clients. Like, I felt like we were getting a lot of like, why don't you want my website to have fun, Cassie and Nicole? And,
oh, yes. Yep. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. Sorry, I took a really long way to get there.
No, you're fine. So, like, people, like, want, like, the flash and the pretty, right? Because that's what we all think about. And that's why you hire a designer. If you just wanted something really utilitarian, you would have probably built it yourself. So we're constantly, like, walking the line, I feel like, between...
It's Johnny Cash's birthday. That was perfect.
I didn't even know. I feel like we walk a line, and on one side of the line is being an artist, which is giving people artistic things, thinking outside the box, whatever. And the other being a technician, which is the fact that, for example, websites always either have menus on the top of the page or on the left side. That's where the menu goes. Like, no one's like, oh, how about I just put a menu in the bottom right corner? Like, nobody would think to look for it there. So there's this line, right? So there's these rules that we follow as technicians, and then there's the fun that we want to have.
Yeah.
And sometimes people are more on the fun side. And we work with a lot of fun people, so of course they want fun things on their website.
Like, they want their birthday party to, like, you walk in and, like, bob for apples, and then there's a strobe light, and there's, like, roller skating.
We all know what Cassie's idea of a fun party is now.
There's just a lot going on, but when someone tries to come into your party, they might, like, slip on a roller skate and, like, get knocked out and, like, get their head in the apple water,
and then the strobe light falls into the thing and electrocutes them,
and they die.
Sorry, I made it dark there, but
I was gonna go along the lines of like they get knocked out and drown at your party, and that's not a good user experience, and people aren't gonna want to come to your parties anymore because you can have like maybe 2 out of 3 of those things, but not all of them, and that's kind of the idea that we're going for, I guess.
Right.
We want you to have some fun, but we mainly want users to have a good experience. So
yes,
it's a little
right, because there's really 2 things actually. So user experience is one thing, right? Like, you could be like, I like a lot of bells and whistles, but part of it, like Cassie says, is you need to kind of ease them into the party. You can't just like have them walk into a room and see all the things, because that's really overwhelming. But the 2 reasons that you actually sometimes need to make a decision against something pretty is if you think about mobile visitors, or if you think about your website's load time. So for example, like a lot of people really like animations, and they sometimes ask about doing an animation or having something like come in. And, you know, Flash technology was built to do that. If you...
Yeah, I remember those websites that you'd like go and it would just be this black screen and like animation be like, enter here.
Yeah, that's exactly it, right?
Can you imagine trying to get at that on your phone though?
Right. Well, for one thing, your website won't load on an iPhone if it's a Flash site. You'll just have a big error. It'll say like, I can show you an example if you want, but so you got to think about people who are accessing this website not just on their really big 30-inch computer screen, but also on their Samsung Galaxy while they're driving around in traffic, you know, looking for directions to your restaurant or something. You know, you got to think about those people too.
Oh yeah. Like driving around, it's like, enter here. Are you kidding me?
You're Yeah, you're seeing like this signature like going across the screen and all these, and you're like, no, I just want the directions.
I'm supposed to turn in 200 feet.
Yeah, so you got to think about those people, because actually mobile users, for a while it was they're a relatively low number, and I think this year we've surpassed the point of 50% of people accessing the web on mobile devices. Like there's like this graph online where it starts, and then it goes and it crosses, and then it's going to actually, mobile users are going to surpass desktop users. So we need to think about them. And sometimes those pretty things can slow down a website, which is the other part of, so mobile, does it look nice on the mobile? And it's one thing if your pretty animation is 3 inches wide, and you can't really see it very well. But the other thing is that sometimes these things add to your website load time.
Yeah. Just another quick note on mobile. I had an issue with mobile yesterday.
Really?
With my table. I was trying to make something look pretty and be easy for me, but I misread the plugin information where it will tell you if it's responsive.
Right. Do you want to give people the example to kind of give them a little background of what you're...
Oh, yeah. So I was working on our Anchor Space sponsorship. No, let's be there. Sponsorship page. Because one of our promises in the perks for the Indiegogo campaign was if you donate $50, we make a little page for you and link to your website. And we thought it would be cool to have everyone's logos up there, so when people click, they can go to the page. So there were a couple different things that I had to make this. The table was a nice little way to display it all.
Right. You can't just put things next to each other on the internet and expect them to stay there. So a lot of times what you do is you put things in a table so that it holds the place relative to the other images, so that you don't load it and it's all gobbledygook all over the page.
Unfortunately, I did get to the gobbledygook part, but
just for a second.
It was a good hour. but
it's a second in the universe's time.
Yeah. So I made this table and was like, oh yeah, and I showed Nicole and we looked at it and she was like, it's not showing up on the phone, or it was like showing.
It was cut off.
It was cut off because it wasn't responsive.
So only 1/3 of our sponsors were visible, and the other 2/3 were off the page, which I thought might have an issue for them.
I had a brief moment of like, oh well. Then I was like, no, it's terrible. It was a very brief moment, but yeah, then it ended up being fine, and I found it responsive.
Right.
Roundabout, but
yeah, because just because you put something on your website doesn't mean it's going to look good in mobile. So even if it says, because the plugin itself, I will say, was misleading because it did say it was responsive.
And just because your site's responsive doesn't mean
anything you install on it is going to act responsively.
Yeah. Sometimes I forget that.
Yeah. So, but it's all right. That's why we test. That's why we always look at it in a mobile device as well. So, and if you're going to add something to your site, make sure to look at it. And, sometimes there'll be a couple of solutions later and you'll finally be, and so now if you go to anchorspace.com/partners, you'll see a list of people who've given us money, and their logos are very prominent.
You did?
Yeah. That's awesome. Basically, it's like a really nice way to support a community project and get a link to your site. So we thought that was a...
And I will make your logo look fancy.
Yeah.
Not fancy.
Yeah, Cassie will work on it and make it look pretty. Yeah, so that was a really good point about mobile. So yeah, test too.
Fun fact.
Yeah. So make something look pretty, but you can make it look mobile friendly. And sometimes it takes a little longer, but it is worth it, isn't it? Now that you look at it on a mobile device, doesn't it make you happy? You're like, yeah. It
does, and I'm like, I wouldn't have wanted to show people the first version because I would have been like, yeah, don't look at this thing I did because I did. But now, like, yeah, look at this thing I did.
Yeah, right. Pride. It's pride there. Right. So despite the fact that some designy things are not mobile friendly or are difficult to make mobile friendly sometimes, there's also the fact where it can slow down your website's load time. And the reason we know that Google cares about site load time is because it's separated out. In Google Analytics, when you log in, there's a separate section that says website load time. So trust me, if Google's tracking it, means they actually care about it on some level. And, so if you have this website that takes 10 seconds to load, Google is going to rank it lower than a website that takes a couple of seconds to load.
Yeah.
So the more crap you have on the homepage, the longer it takes to load.
Like if you want a slideshow with like 40 pictures.
Yeah, and people definitely ask us for that.
Are you going to sit on a homepage and wait for 40 pictures to go by? Really?
No, I don't know. And what you can do to even test your theory is look at your Google Analytics and see how long people spend on your website. I bet you it is under a minute, maybe a minute and a half if you got a lot of crap on your website.
And that's if they had the patience to wait the 10 seconds for it to load.
Yeah. So exactly, right? You've assumed they've waited, which is not necessarily a good assumption. So yeah, so you can see, so if you have, each slide is taking 10 seconds to load and you have 40 of them, like that is longer than, the minute that your most enthusiastic front page, homepage website viewer is going to spend. So so don't do it. What we do, so we actually, on our site, we have a slideshow. And I'm not saying I'm thrilled with our website in its current state. I will just say that. But we have a slideshow, and I think it's displaying 5 slides that each show for 5 or 6 seconds, right? So you can see the whole thing in a minute. But also, we have other slides that are back there. We just have them turned off. And so when one of them is getting a little stale, we can unpublish and publish a different one. So we can change it up by cycling out, slides that we think people are getting tired of or not clicking on. So you don't need to have 40 on your homepage. You can make 40 and you can have 5 displaying now, and then you can change it up, seasonally. So maybe in the spring you're doing, I don't know, maybe you're a nonprofit and you've got some programs that are going in the spring. Maybe you make those programs show up in the slideshow. And so like you can freshen it up by like not having everything display all the time. And if you want to test your site load time, if you go to tools.pingdom.com, you can type in your URL and it will tell you, or anyone's URL really. So if you want to scope out the competition, you can put their thing in there and you can press load and you can actually see how long it takes to load. And you can also see what files are big. So like we did one website audit with a client and we saw that his website was taking like 5 seconds to load. And I was looking at his files and like he had one image in his slideshow that was 3,000 pixels. Those of you who don't know what 3,000 pixels are, it's like wider than the screen you're probably looking at this on, unless you're looking at this on a like huge screen. So he had this huge picture that was
Cast Tech Thursday.
Yeah. So he had this huge picture that was displaying in like this 3,000 pixel picture that was displaying in a 500 pixel area. It was still taking up all that file space and taking that time to load and then get smaller. So I just said, hey, if you knock down this file size, I bet you're going to save a second on your website load time, which, so sometimes there's just a couple of really easy fixes. If you just run that diagnostic tool, you can see what's taking up a lot of room.
It's usually media.
Yeah.
I feel like in my experience.
Yeah, it's often media. And sometimes you can actually, there's some crazy things you can do to like compress CSS files and stuff like that.
Smush it.
Well, Smush It smushes the, so a little tool that you may like if you run a WordPress site is called WP Smush It. And what it does is it will go through your pictures and it will reduce the file size, usually about between like 2 and 10%. So if you have a ton of pictures and you're just like feeling vaguely lazy about it and you just want to run it and just have, your 600 pictures be all a little bit smaller on your website, it's kind of a fun tool to run. I think they have a pro version.
There was that one time that I ran it and like the picture was too big for Smush It.
Well, that's why they have a pro version now. So you can pay a little bit of money, and I think what it'll do is it'll run bigger files through its thing. I think they don't want to give you too much for free, which I get. Like if you spend a lot of time developing something, yeah, maybe someone could throw in a couple of bucks if they really like want to do some crazy stuff with it, like run really big pictures through it. So I think the pro version lets you run more pictures or bigger files. So there is that. I have thought about getting a developer license for that, just because we do have a lot of clients with image size issues. with sites we've inherited even. But let's face it, we've all accidentally done it. We've all like accidentally uploaded a really big file and just didn't even think about it. So just if you run that diagnostic tool, you can run it on your homepage, and you can run it on maybe a couple of pages that you care about, and just see like what files are tripping things up, and maybe, you know, work on reducing them. Because, you know, like I said, like someone's not going to sit there and wait 10 seconds for your website to load. Like even my mother wouldn't do that, and she loves me.
My mom wouldn't either.
Yeah. And have you noticed, like when you're searching on a mobile device, now it'll tell you if a website's mobile friendly or not?
Oh yeah, I have noticed that.
The little label that they've probably added it a few months ago. I mean, I've noticed it. So Google is gonna, if you're on a mobile device, Google is gonna rank websites. If your website is mobile friendly, it's gonna rank it higher on a mobile device. So that's another reason to think about. So it's one thing to have a pretty website with all these animations coming in and like buttons that like change into 6 different colors when you hover over them. But it's another thing to like say, okay, what's really important? The line, right? You want to be an artist and you want to be a technician. You want to be both, because your website needs to think of those people. Because let's face it, if your website's beautiful but it doesn't load fast, or it's not mobile friendly, people aren't going to look at it. So sometimes if we're talking you out of fun, we're really talking you into letting your customers have more fun.
I feel like we're like the parents that are like, you'll thank us later.
Totally. But at the same time, if someone says, yes, you need to do this, we'll do it, because you are the customer and you're always right. But we will first tell you what we think very gently, and hopefully not overly parentally.
No, I feel like we're not super patronizing.
No, not at all. I mean, I think people just don't, like, if you're not a big mobile phone, if you're not like browsing the internet on your phone a couple hours every night, like maybe I do a lot of nights, maybe you're not thinking about the mobile user. I have a lot of spare time on my hands.
I have insomnia. It's probably unfortunately, I'm not super useful during those awake hours because I'm just actively trying to sleep. So I'm on my phone, which probably perpetuates.
Did you try the tricks? Did you try pushing?
I forgot. I woke up when I like actually made myself get out of bed this morning. I was like, I should have.
So Cassie found this article. In case you ever find yourself with insomnia, it was a bunch of things to try, and one of them is that you push. What is it? Your thumb specifically, or just
like apply pressure, which I guess I
basically to your third eye area. But if you do that, and if you kind of push, you know, like a little bit for like 10 seconds, and then let go,
you do get a little. It feels like I'm afraid to do it right now because this is not a good time for me to be sleeping.
No, it feels. Can you imagine if you did that and just went like?
Yeah, I'm afraid it's like putting myself in a sleeper hold.
I don't know if it's that powerful, but it does feel quite nice. So if you're watching this, and we see that one person is right now live, if you try that, it's very lovely. So
the legs up on the wall one is another good one.
Legs up on the wall.
Yeah, it's a yoga pose, but it's also good for stretching out your legs if you're a runner, or just use your legs at all.
So if you put your legs on, like, so you lay on the ground and
you lay on the ground, and like you try to get your butt as close to the wall as possible, and then you kind of do like cactus arms.
Oh, but what about the?
You do both. I like how I turned into this.
It was just more fun. Wait, I feel like that's more, yeah. And we lost our viewer. They're like, okay, this is too off the rails.
Yeah, we navigated away there.
Yeah. So if you see a website you like design-wise and you're like, oh, this is really pretty or whatever, run it through the tools.pingdom thing, see how long it takes to load, and look at it on your mobile phone. And if it is not fitting both of those criteria in terms of if it's not loading in under 3 seconds and if it's not looking good on your mobile device, you might want to rethink your liking that site. I mean, you could still like it, but you shouldn't want it for yourself.
Your opinion is wrong.
No, it's just not worth coveting, you know? It's not worth, like, being really excited about. So what are some ways that people can make their website exciting and sort of designy and fun without slowing down the website load time and without, you know, making it unmobile friendly? What are some things that you've seen that you were like, oh, that's pretty cool? So like a slideshow is the obvious one, right? Like if you wanted pictures that change. And a lot of people do that because they're not going to change up their homepage that much, but they know they can easily change out those pictures and change the look of their site. Because let's face it, no one goes to your, okay, not no one, like 2 out of every 100 people that go to your site are going to look at your site and be like, oh, that's a really cool font treatment. Or like, oh, like the drop shadow on that button is really nice. Like genuinely. I mean, most people are going there for the information that is displayed on your site. They're going there to see what you have to say, to look at your pictures. So you want the design to enhance that. You don't necessarily want it to take away from that.
Yeah. Definitely don't distract from.
I mean, you can have fun with like Leslie, who works with us, found a really cool mobile menu plugin. So if you want, what we found with a lot of websites is that the mobile menu is kind of stupid looking. It's either hard to see or it's written really small or something. Like it's just
you have to like try to zoom in and like no one's fingers are that small.
Right. So there's these menu
struggle recently.
And it's so funny that it never occurred to me that like, oh, rather than changing the whole like look and feel of the site, I can just change the menu. Like it has literally never occurred to me. But there's these, you know, if you use WordPress or some other content management system, there's like mobile menu plugins. So you can actually customize the mobile menu experience to have it be, you know, kind of go across and kind of almost be like buttons. Or you can have it, I really like, maybe for our site when we redo it, I really like it when menu items have icons too. Like I don't know if you've seen those before. It has like it'll be like a little globe and it'll say about or something like that. Like
oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that they're kind of cool. I'm not saying a globe and about is cool. I'm just saying illustrating example. But I kind of like
sometimes they need a little.
I kind of like the idea of like making the menu visual for mobile users. So there's some things that you can have on your site that maybe are just for mobile people that are kind of cool. You know, like having a call us button, and when people push it, like the phone number is loaded and starts calling you. Like you can do that kind of stuff, and you can have it only be for the mobile site because, you know, desktop called out. And then the computer's like, what? No, you can't.
I don't do that.
You know, so one way to be exciting, you've got the slideshow. Another way to be exciting is to think about the mobile user specifically and get excited about some of the interactive things you can do just for those people. Like the mobile menu kind of flying out and being a visual way to navigate the site. That's maybe a little bit more prominent than it would be, you know, on your desktop version of your site where people can just see more information and get to places. You know, thinking about, I mean, you can also do cool things like, you know, you can make buttons, like when you hover over them, you can make the buttons change color.
I like when people have clearly taken the time to like, even if it's kind of like my nerdy take on it, but like the font works well with the buttons and the colors are going well together, and it's just I like it. And like pictures and I don't know.
Yeah, because you just want people like, so you can add little touches like that, and a hover color is not difficult to implement. I will say that I can do it. So, and I'm not really great at some of the code stuff. So I only say that because to say that it doesn't necessarily take a lot of time to implement something like that. So, you know, if you think about like, oh, how can I make this element that I need on my site a little bit more interesting? So how can all right, so we have to display logos for people who are sponsoring us. How can we make that look really good? Okay, yes. We can put them in a table. Okay, we can make them this certain size. And that, you know, and then...
That was the tricky part, because they're all like these different sizes. So there had to be a way for them to like, try to make them all look...
Right. All look like they go together, even though they're all coming from different places. Yes. So, you know, just putting some thought into that, I have to display this, or I have this going on my site, how can I make it better? Even rethinking kind of how you display a group of images, like in a gallery or a portfolio or something like that. There's definitely literally hundreds of options.
Yeah, like do you want the thing when you click on it to pop out? Do you want it to just go through the next pictures?
Yeah. Yeah, and
I don't know what else other galleries can do.
Oh no, you can have thumbnail. Yeah, you can do all kinds. You can have it automatically transitioning. You can have thumbnails of images appearing like above it, and then you have a big
yeah.
version of the picture, and someone clicks on it. I'm sure you've seen it in online shopping carts. You know, they've got the little pictures below. You can click on it, and it kind of takes over the big picture area and shows you like, oh, this is what that chair looks like from behind. This is what it looks like from, you know, underneath. Okay, they're usually not that great about angles, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, just so feel free to think about like what you need on the site and then how to do that a little bit differently. You know, and how to do it with maybe a little bit, maybe there's a border around the picture, you know, maybe like there's rounded corners. So like, that's another thing that's actually not, I'm not saying all this is super, I'm just saying that this is all possible. You can look through and say like, oh, like my buttons all have rounded edges. Maybe I want my photos to have rounded corners to match that. So there's certain things that you can do that aren't necessarily these huge files or these really complex animations that you can add interest to your site with. Think of it as like sprinkles, right? Like you're not gonna like open up a thing of sprinkles and like dump them on the cake, right? You're gonna sprinkle them. So that's what you want to do with these elements. Like you don't, yeah.
I'm having a chicken and the egg moment. Like, do we say the word sprinkles because that's what you do with the sprinkles, or you know what I mean?
Right. Do we call it sprinkled because of the action, or yeah. Wow.
Anyway.
I love Existential Cassie. If you think Existential Cassie should have her own YouTube channel, please let us know, because I think Cassie has these like deep moments with Cassie. What do we call your fig show?
Oh, I forgot. Was this when I was doing the third eye patch?
Yeah. Deep thoughts with Cass. I don't know.
There was a good name.
It was a good name. We'll figure it out.
But Nicole does all my branding.
I'm the Don Draper of Cassie. Cassie's the Don Draper of Breaking Even. But yeah, so, you know, so if you are talking to your web designer and they seem like they're trying to talk you out of something that you want to do in terms of the way your site looks and feels, just ask them, say, hey, you know, are you telling me this because you think it affects the experience of mobile users? Or are you doing that? Are you saying this is going to slow down my website's load time? And then they'll be like, oh, I'm talking to someone who cares about this stuff, and they'll probably explain what they think.
It'll open the door to an interesting conversation.
Yeah, totally. But just kind of be open to why they think that, because there's usually a reason, and sometimes
it's not like because we're lazy and we don't want to deal with it.
Yeah,
it's usually because we're thinking of something else.
That's a really good point. I will say that a lot of times, like if we can do something and we can do it well and it's going to work out, we're going to like be really excited to do it, especially if we haven't done it before, because it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
You know, to think about it and see if we can do it. But if it's for some reason, it's like Cassie says, it's going to not be good, we're not just being lazy, we're really just trying to help.
Yeah, we are passionately curious people, so
right.
We will explore.
And we're really trying to think about we're thinking about it from your end in terms of presenting information, but we're also thinking about it from the customer end, because we need to do that, because that helps
another line
make
we
more
have
money.
to walk.
Yeah, like you, the business owner, as our customer, and then appealing to your customers so that you make more money. Artist, technician, you, your customer. A lot of lines, a lot of walking. We're up for it though. Mm. We're trying to get more exercise anyway. I am anyway. Cassie gets tons. She like runs marathons and stuff. So my goal is to get 3,000 steps a day. So, oh my God, this is a great topic. This is Cassie's idea at like 8 a.m. So I know.
That's great ideas happen after running.
Yeah.
Or during running, I guess.
Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah, and if you have a topic that you want us to talk about or a question you want us to answer, please leave a comment on the video or on the blog post that this video is posted on. And for those of you who watch live, thanks. We appreciate it. And yeah, and we'll see you next week.
All right. See ya. Oh, I missed your answer.